Hey, welcome back into this morning's video, or today's video. We're going to have a look at the next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, it'll be taking us up to around the 14th of December, so getting on towards the middle of the month. It looks like it's going to be turning more unsettled probably through next week. Could get a little bit stormy actually. May have our first sort of significant Atlantic based storm and winds of the winter. Hopefully it's not the start of the sort of storms and deluge that we had last winter. I'm hoping that we're not going to see a repeat of that. But yeah, it could get pretty windy next week, particularly in the north. And temperature's going to be on the coolest side really. Despite the fact it's all Atlantic based, the weather over the next week's 10 days. It's going for a relatively cool source in the Atlantic. So, although we'll bring warm sectors through at times, overall I think temperatures are going to be a little bit on the coolest side actually. But nothing desperately cold coming up for the first half of December. Have to emphasise that. Certainly not going to be the depths of winter with severe blizzards and heavy snow and severe cold, anything like that. Just going to be relatively cool and pretty unsettled. Have a look at all the charts in a moment. Before I get on with that, just want to mention the ads. There's links to articles sitting underneath the web video here on our homepage at gazovins.com. Have a browse through the widget, and if there's any articles that you're interested in, just click through. You'll be able to go off and read those articles. There's green keyword ads on some of the pages. If you right cursor over green keywords, they'll display ads. If you click through the word, you'll go to advertise website. You'll be supporting Gazovins by doing that. There's yellow ad units on some of the pages as well. They're contextual, they're weather related, so click through if there's anything you're interested in there. And Gav Shop remains open. It's been a huge success this year. Thanks so much to everybody who's done their Christmas shopping from Gav Shop. You just click through the Amazon banners in Gav Shop and go to Amazon. You buy your Christmas shopping as normal at Amazon, but because you've clicked through from Gazovins to Amazon, we get a royalty fee on things that you're purchasing. As I say, it's been a huge success this year, so thanks so much for getting involved and doing that. So just starting off with the 500 millibar height anomaly flowchart for next week, 10 days. As I say, this is taking us to around the 14th of December. We've got the ECMWF here on the left, the GFS is on the right, and 500 millibars is an area in the atmosphere where we've got high pressure, low pressure being moved around by the jet stream. Now, orange is extrapolating to high pressure, orange and red extrapolating to above average temperatures actually at 850 millibars, which is high pressure. Blue extrapolating to below average temperatures at 850 millibars, which is low pressure. So for the coming week, 10 days, we find we've got this area of high pressure in the Atlantic, big reach there on both of the ECM and the GFS showing up to the west and the southwest of the country, and they've both got this trough of low pressure up to the north of the country below average heights, and in between we've got a pretty strong jet stream indicated by the tight lines there running across the Atlantic into the British Isles, more or less going over British Isles, and then rising northwards around that ridge that's still sitting there across western parts of Russia. The GFS is very similar with that strong jet stream running through into British Isles and then rising northwards around that ridge that sits to the east and to the northeast of the country. So it implies a relatively unsettled period with the driest weather in the south and the wettest weather in the north, of course, in that sort of setup. Strong jet stream coming through as well, so that's where the winds could be coming from. Excuse me, the winds could be coming from that strong jet stream, and because of the alignment of the trough of the ridge, relatively cool air coming off Greenland generally with this sort of pattern. So that's why the temperatures are not going to be perhaps as warm as you would expect in a typical Atlantic setup. Here's the GFS temperature and precipitation anomalies for the next couple of weeks. This takes up to around the 19th of December. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average, and we're a bit below average at the moment. We're going to stay below average for the rest of this week. We get on into next week though, and we're going to push those temperatures up a little bit and make a lot of scatter ready through the course of next week. And what's going on there is that we'll probably bring in some of the zonal sine wave through. So sometimes we'll be in a warm sector, it'll go a bit warmer than average. Sometimes we'll be in a cold sector and it'll go a bit colder than average. When it goes colder than average, it could go quite significantly colder than average, and more than you would expect in a typical Atlantic driven pattern. So I think overall we're probably coming out around average, maybe even a little bit below over the next week or so. But it's really been next few days actually really going to be quite significantly below average. Although it's dry, it's going to feel pretty cool. You see there's hardly any rainfall spikes at all until we get through into next week. Just bringing some through around Friday and into the weekend. But overall not a lot until we get into next week. And then the rainfall spikes do come back increasingly through next week. So by the time we get through to the middle of the month, we could be in really quite a wet spell. The temperature anomaly, look at that, we're a little bit below average from the 4th to the 12th of December. Haven't seen that very often during 2014. Been a very warm year, of course, record-breakingly warm, potentially. There's not on the news about that yesterday, but I do wonder whether the UK Met could have jumped the gun a little bit on that. It would only take a really cold spell at some point during December to negate that a little bit. So let's wait and see where we go with that, whether we do get that record for 2014. It looks probable, really, but it could be a little bit early. It could have been a little bit early for the UK Met to have been calling that one. But anyway, for the next week, temperature anomaly is a little bit below average. As I say, we're in a generally fairly coolish flow from the northwest. If we have a look at the rainfall anomaly, precipitation anomaly from the 4th to the 12th of December, coming out of drier than average in the south, wetter than average in the north. Remember, the next few days up to the weekend going to be largely dry, and it's as we go into next week that the rainfall is coming back. So expect this to turn wetter over the next few updates. So here's the generic GFS for the middle of next week. This is the storm I was telling you about that could batter us next week. The first sort of Atlantic storm of the winter. Very deep area of low pressure there around Iceland, bringing strong winds, like that ice bars there across the country. That's severe gales much of Scotland, and quite cold air. If one of the ice bars back, the air originates from Greenland, so quite cold air coming in with that. Would certainly be enough for wintry showers in the north and over the Scottish mountains, of course, with those sort of winds. Could be blizzards there, but I have to emphasise that's on the top of the mountains. It won't be a widespread problem, but certainly quite a cool blow there and a strong wind at that. The low pressure moves off in towards Scandinavia on Thursday. The air is still generally coming from a northwesterly direction in a week's time. Not really going properly northerly, not going properly Arctic, but cool anyway, with the winds coming in from the northwest. We go through to day 10, which is Sunday the 15th of December. The basic setup is still there, really. The low pressure is to the north, the high pressure is to the southwest, and the air generally is from a northwesterly point in the Atlantic, so generally polar maritime as opposed to tropical maritime air coming in, so relatively cool still going through to day 10. We have a look at the E70F. Here is how the ECM is handling that storm through the middle of next week. Again, significant areas of low pressure around Iceland, very tight packed ice bars bringing gales, severe gales across many parts of the country. The air is relatively cool as well, following ice bars back. Air is originating from Greenland. It's modified by the Atlantic, of course, but nevertheless quite cool air. Excuse me, being fed in. Moving through into day 10, and actually that is the GFS that I've got there, the day 10 GFS chart, so I'll just quickly change that over to the E70F. This is for a week's time, and there's that low pressure again to the north Scotland, and the high pressure down southwest bring down that cool northwesterly flow. Going through to day 10 with the E70F, and it's same idea as with GFS. The basic setup continues. The high pressure's out to west, the low pressure's up to the north. It's unsettled, but the air, again, follow the isobars back, the air's going up towards Greenland, so it's not as warm as you would suspect it could be with a typical Atlantic driven pattern. That'll certainly be enough to bring some wintry showers into the north and west. So it looks like we're going into quite a buoyant phase. The Atlantic is going to be cranking up probably next week. Could be some gales coming through with that, but not as warm as you will think it will probably be in an Atlantic driven pattern, because the air it's going more northwest to southeast as opposed to southwest to northeast, which is the typical direction in an Atlantic pattern. So overall, quite cool. Could be wintry showers at times in the north. Pretty good for the Scottish ski resorts, actually. If you want to go skiing, I think they could get some really significant snowfall on the mountains in Scotland over the coming week to 10 days. So very good news for them. But it's cool, it's unsettled, and probably fairly stormy, perhaps around the middle of next week. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.